Normally, every day, thousands of people commute from their residence to their workplace and back. A large part of this group is going to office buildings. This presentation will briefly discuss light exposure in offices, both the professional workspace and, more usual these days, the home office.
My name is Myriam Aries, and I'm a professor in lighting science at the School of Engineering of Jönköping University. Light is a fascinating topic as it enables humans to see and perceive the world around them. But it also supports their biological clock and has direct and learning effects.
Humans evolved outside, and for a very long time, buildings were only used for shelter and security. Windows were small or non-existent and predominantly meant to let in fresh air. For thousands of years, people's days and activities were guided by sunrise and sunset, and with the help from fire, wakening times got extended into the evening. The invention of electric lighting extended daytime activities to more or less 24 hours, and people could move further and further away from the window, from the daylight. These days, we are more and more dependent and relying on our electric lighting. Nevertheless, effects of light on humans can be due to daylight, or electric lighting, or a combination of both, as long as the light is able to reach the human eye and its photoreceptors. During the workday, people spend much time in buildings, and in 2013, researchers in the United States have published the results of a large field study in which they have looked where and how long people were in office buildings. One of their findings was that occupancy patterns were quite similar during the different weekdays, with a slightly lower presence towards the end of the week. About 2 years ago, we have performed a field study in a real office environment in Sweden, where we have manipulated the dynamic lighting that was available for about 4 weeks. We worked with a tunable white luminaire with a 50-50 direct and indirect light output. We kept the correlated color temperature constant and manipulated only the amount of light. We kept the light levels within normal office levels and varied between 250 and 850 lux horizontally. After a baseline week with a normal 500 lux at the desk, we exposed one group for 2 weeks to a dynamic scenario which provided a light boost in the morning and a dip in the afternoon, the so-called high-low scenario. The subsequent weeks, this group received a light boost in the afternoon, the low-high scenario. A second group got a reverse pattern and started with a light boost in the afternoon. We asked the people to fill out questionnaires and do tasks at 3 moments during the day. These were performance tasks. 81 questionnaires were returned for the morning moment by Group A and nearly 1/3 less by Group B. And this difference was the same for the other 2 moments that we tested, with the smallest difference between the groups around lunchtime. The figure shows that there is an effect of response of the time of day and of course of group, or maybe I should say job type, because we know that the type of job influenced the response rate, as employees in Group A had a more desk-bound job or more desk-bound tasks than the ones in Group B. Even though we have found significant effects of light on human performance, we realized that looking at only a workday between 9 and 5 may be too limited. Hence, we expanded our follow-up study to light exposure over 24 hours, had a bit larger variety in job types, and related the effects to the impact of sleep quality. We asked the participant in this study to wear a light logger on their clothing, so we did not do a manipulation of the lighting. For this presentation, I took the results of only one random person as an example. In order to see if we found similar patterns as the researchers in the American study, I have plotted the data for a Tuesday and compared them with the data for a Friday. We can see that this person most likely took a lunch walk and covered the light logger with a coat, because we see the level going all the way to 0. This walk is also visible in the light exposure for the Friday. What we also see is that, potentially in agreement with the American study, the participant went home early on Friday, if we compare it with a Tuesday. And my guess is that this person is driving home without wearing a coat, because where we saw a dip all the way to 0 during lunch, we see a little bit of an increase, potentially the exposure to daylight through the windshield. We started the study in March 2020, and then 2 weeks in, COVID-19. The situation with COVID-19 got worse, and multiple participants were asked or requested to work from home. But we continued. We asked the participants to continue wearing the light logger and carried on with the data collection, with some participants working in the office and some at home. For the light exposure results at home, I took the data for the same person as before, so again only one person. Here we see the data for a Tuesday again. And it looks like that this person did not go out for a lunch walk wearing a coat covering the sensor, but maybe ate lunch close to the window or in a so-called Swedish uterum. Also on the Friday, it looks like the participant did not go outside during lunch, but after 3 o'clock. And then I looked at the weather conditions on all the days, and I saw that the weather condition on the Friday was quite sunny, which was probably much better to go outside compared to the gloomy Tuesday. If we now compare the office exposure with the home exposure for again the same person, and look at the average exposure over the entire day, in this case the Tuesday, we see that the vertical light levels in the office are much higher than at home, especially in the afternoon. The variation over the day is much higher at home compared to the office. As workplace lighting is designed according to regulations and standards, most home offices were improvised and often used probably the kitchen lighting. We did find significant effects of the different types of light exposure, both at home and in the office, on sleep quality, but I will present those results in another presentation. For now, when working from home, try to invest in good lighting or lighting advice that illuminates the task and the surroundings, including yourself, at least your eyes. Maybe even more important is to get daylight exposure multiple times during the day, either by exposure close to the window, like the participant in the example was potentially doing, or even better, by going outdoors, as the participants were doing during work time in the office. Thank you for listening.